All right, as we start here today, that's not what I want. Yeah, whatever. Don't want downloads. All right, yesterday we had a meeting of our advisory committee, and I just want to tell you about some of the things that happened. Much of it, as usual, kind of went down into a conversation that we really didn't need to have, but we had anyway. Okay? They talked about our certificates, and if you're not aware of it, and I should tell you this, I'm not going to get on, it's just too hard to get, I'm not a Mac guy, all right? But if you are in this program, and you all are, you're all eligible to get several certificates when you graduate. You may know about that, you may not know about that. But there is a Java programming certificate, there is a .NET programming certificate, and there is a web programming certificate. You are eligible for all three of those. All right? Believe me, just bear with me for a second, even if you heard the shtick before, because some stuff changed a little bit yesterday. All right? Right now, Amanda, that you know that that's not Amanda, but she sits where Zach is. Usually she sits there. She's the first person that I know of in the history of the school who is just here for the web programming certificate. All right? Unknown to me, and I should have known because I set the darn thing up, but to get the web programming certificate, what you have to take is 152, 147, which is the relational database coding. No, that's relational database development. You've got to take the 152, 163, which is the relational database design. You've got to take 152, 157, which is the HTML, CSS class. All right, and you have to take 152, 148, which is the relational database coding. All right, again, remember something about this. The name of the degree is what? Or the certificate? Web programming. I had never heard of the name Amanda Cushing before this semester. Okay? Why am I telling you that? Because she took this class either with Arinda or Jim Schmidt. She took that with Denny. She took that with Denny. All right? So what she was lacking coming into it, about to get something in web programming, was any programming. What should have been added to this certificate was the 119 class, so that people have some experience programming before they get into relational database coding. And I guess the other class you got to take here too is the 152, 158, the advanced website development. That's why she's struggling a little bit in PHP, because she's never had any coding before. Funny thing is, she's the only one who turned in the assignment on the day it was due, which I found really interesting. It was complete. I haven't gone over all of it yet, but it was complete. She had everything done. All right? So the reason I'm telling you this is not to go over her story, but to tell you that at the meeting last night, one of the people there was one of the people on your slip that I just gave you. That's Andy Walker. Andy Walker is co-owner of Foremost Media. Foremost Media has employed about a half dozen of our grads over the years. Right now, let's see, Tony Reynolds is there, and most of you know Tony from last year. Derek Hancock, who graduated the year before Tony, he was there. Chris Farlinger was there for quite a while. I think he's left and gone someplace else. David Fox was there, and he graduated from the program years ago. So they've been very good about employing our students. Okay. So what this gets to is yesterday, we went through this thing that's called Career Pathways, and it shows all the certificates for the program, all three of the certificates. And it says the idea is if somebody walks into Blackhawk Technical College and says, I've got a job in IT already, but I have no official IT training, and my boss basically told me if I get some training, if I get a certificate or something, I can get a promotion. And that kind of stuff actually happens. All right? That's where these certificates were set up. Okay? And then the idea was they take a couple classes and they're like, this isn't bad. So then they sign up for the whole program. But since all of you are signed up for the program, you get those 3 certificates. And if I forget to tell you about it before the end of the semester or we don't talk about it again, all you have to do is right after you graduate, literally, when your grades are, I'm not talking about when you get your diploma, but that Saturday, you know, if you're going to go through the procession and stuff, if you come back that Monday and you have an unofficial copy of your transcripts, you walk up and you show them to Tammy Rail up there. She takes your information and all those certificates will be sent to you. And I'm not saying it will or won't get you a job, but it never hurts to have those. They're not a Microsoft cert. They're just you get it. They're not in a frame. They're basic. I don't think they're in a frame. But
No.
what?
I said no.
No, are they just on a piece of paper?
I think you get them cards. I've seen some of them.
Okay.
They're just cards.
I don't think they're cards here. I think you actually get a piece of paper that's something that you could frame. And I think it's literally like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper.
Yes.
All right. All right. So the reason I'm telling you this is, so we're talking about this career pathways yesterday. So they mentioned all the certificates. And then after that, there's an arrow and it goes to 67 credits and you get the degree. After that, there's another arrow and it says, basically education is lifelong learning. So you might decide that you want to go and get a bachelor's degree. Then maybe after that, a master's degree. And then maybe after that, a doctorate degree. Maybe you want none of them. But the point is, that's the progression that you can make. So we talked about this for about half of our meeting yesterday. And it was kind of interesting because I think that Denny and Arinda didn't like it because my slide was up there for almost the entire time. So I was just sitting there loving it because they hardly talked about theirs at all, which I thought was the way it should be. But I'm sure they feel just the opposite. Okay, so we're sitting there and we're talking about this stuff. And Pat Kempinski, who ran the meeting, the associate dean of the business division, said, "What do you people think of this?" In other words, if somebody comes to you and let's say they literally just come to you with 1 or 2 of these certifications, would you hire them? That was the question. And when you think about it, it's a fair question. I mean, if you came in here and if you could get a certificate like this by going 2 semesters, you were working full time, but you took 2 classes and 2 classes, however you did it, would you be, and what they said was, it depends. So there was no answer, all right? And what I'm getting to though is what Andy said was, I don't like your web programming certificate. He said, this almost sounds funny, he said there's too much in it. He said, as far as I'm concerned, if you've got people who have taken this class, and you've got people who have taken this class, and to my knowledge, I can say with pretty much with certainty, that's every one of you. He said, have them apply, because we might hire them now. He said, we're really looking for people. He said, you're not going to make $100,000. He said, we'd have to negotiate salary. And then he also said, for those of you who are going to graduate in May, send him a resume then. Maybe right now you've got a different job, maybe you're not interested in getting a job, etc. Maybe your family situation, whatever. But he said right now they're looking for people. All right? He used to have me on his list that whenever there were jobs open there, I would hear about them right away. And I've got to do a better job of going out there and taking a look at their site because they usually post their jobs. He literally just had a job out there for a .NET developer. You know what? I'm not saying any of you would have gotten the job or wouldn't have gotten the job, but hell, I'll take your question in a second. It never hurts to apply. The only way you get to become good at interviewing is by doing what? Interviewing. All right? And I'm not going to lie to you. I interviewed at another school over the summer. If they would have hired me, I wouldn't be here right now. Why didn't they? They didn't tell me. They just didn't hire me. Okay? And I walked in there, and it sure wasn't because of the interview, because I wasn't nervous at all. The only thing was I hadn't really lectured, and I had to give a lecture. I hadn't done it all summer, so my mouth got real dry. And I forgot to bring a water with me or have a piece of gum or something. So my mouth was really, really dry. And I did have a water, but it was at a real long table, and my water was over here. I was over there lecturing, and I felt stupid about walking over there. So finally at the end I said, my mouth is really dry. Do you mind if I get my water? And they all laughed. I don't think they would not have given me a job because of that. All right. But the point is, I'd apply right now if you have any interest in it whatsoever. what he said, that, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but what he said they typically do is if they call you in, before you even get an interview, they put you in a room and they give you a test. And they see what you know about. He said that you need to know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I said to him, what about jQuery? He goes, nice to have, but at least to get started here, you don't need it. You'll learn it while you're on the job. All right? And I said, HTML or HTML5? He said, well, if you got some HTML5 experience, that's good. If you've got CSS3 experience, that's good. I said, what about mobile stuff? He said, we eventually want to move most of our stuff and have a mobile footprint. We have very little right now. He also said they're really expanding there. They've got to move to another building because they've outgrown their current facility. So you've got that name. You can put me down, all of you, if you want to, as a reference. All right? And like I said, if they do call you, if they're interested, they're going to make you come in. Before they even interview you, they give you a test. He didn't say what the test was about. But he's one of the people who said, if you had a certificate that just did this, yeah, we'd hire your people after they just got that. Now, not every one, and no guarantees, but he'd at least interview you. You'd have a chance. Yes.
This kind of pertains. It's a question about like the bachelor's degree. I've heard a little bit about it, but what are they doing with Wisconsin technical system?
Well,
What they able to transfer credits to it?
No, that's not true. They've actually entered into some agreements.
Oh, really?
Yes, and the UW system is getting better and better every semester. The idea is eventually, I don't know what eventually is though, they're going to accept everything from here.
I think it was getting split up. I only looked at Stouts had one.
Yeah, but there are more now than there were. The other thing too, and again, the bad news about this is they're private colleges, so it's going to cost more. I get that. But places like Edgewood, Marion College, private colleges like that, they're by and large, they'll accept 100% of the credits you have. And they also provide scholarships for just about everybody. Yeah.
Did he indicate whether we should apply for this position online or come in?
No, he basically said, if you wanted to, if I were you, I would spiffy up the resume. I'll be happy to look at it if you want. And I would just send it to him electronically along with a cover letter. All right? Now, next semester, one of the things, for the 182 class, for the field study class, you have to give me a resume. And I mark the hell out of it. Okay, and I give it back to you. Now, let's say Mark gives me his, and I don't like it at all. I totally rewrite it. If he looks at it and says, I liked it better the way it was. Well, whose resume is it? It's his, right? Then he doesn't change a darn thing. It's okay. But I would show him the way that I would write the resume. That's all. All right. So, I mean, Zach, I helped you. We looked at your resume and we did some rewrite on that. Kelly, I don't remember if you had to send in a resume or not. And you maybe just had one, and I don't know if I helped you with that. I don't remember. But that really is going to be the requirement that you're going to have next semester, is to have finished, or by the end of the semester, an internship. All right. And you have to give me a resume, and you have to give me a cover letter. The cover letter can be to a fictitious company. You can say Blackhawk, that you're for a programming position or something like that. It doesn't matter. All right. And that's basically all the work you have to do for that class. But again, the reason I'm telling you this is you've got that experience. I'm not saying that he's going to call any of you. If there's 10 of them that come in tomorrow, it could be pick and choose. It could be all sorts of stuff. Let's say, for example, and I'm not saying that's the case, but let's say, for example, Mark before this had a 4-year degree. Let's just say that happened in a non-related field. He'd probably get called in before Teresa if she didn't have a 4-year degree. In fact, I know it's the opposite, because I know Teresa has a 4-year degree. So she might be called in before Mark would. You see what I'm saying? And I, well, that's to be honest with you, I think that's why I didn't get the job. That's what's going to be held against me now for the rest of my career. But as they keep taking more and more of my courses and giving them to adjuncts and to other people who are here, it pisses me off more and more to know it. And the time's going to come when either I'm going to have a heart attack, in which case I won't be here, or I'm going to quit, in which case I won't be here. Because I have no control over my own destiny. All I do is keep busting my ass and doing all this stuff, and the way I get rewarded is they just keep doing what they can to tick me off. And then I'm told when I ask about it, you're not a team player. Yes.
Now a question, because I know people did it, the last year grads, some of them had jobs before they graduated.
Yes.
How would that work? Because I know Blackhawk's trying to implement an attendance policy.
I don't give a rat's ass about their attendance policy. If you're hired full-time at a place, that's why one of the reasons I'm taping the classes. We had a student last year who graduated in December, and the whole first semester he came here twice because he was working literally out near Milwaukee. But the fact that he was working out near Milwaukee and got a job starting at $50,000 a year, to me was much more important than him sitting in my lectures.
When I was a student, my first semester, I got a temp job programming, and there were classes I was in that the teacher said, you know, attendance is this percentage of your grade, and I talked to them and said, hey, I got a job in my field, and they're like, great, don't worry about it, you know.
Yeah. So I can only answer for me, Mike. I can't answer. So if you do have any gen eds, you know, it depends on who you have. You know, and everybody's different. Kelly will tell you how Dave Guile is, you know, and if you pick 40% for attendance, he doesn't care that you got a job. You pick 40% for attendance, and if you don't come anymore, that's going to hose you on that grade. And he doesn't let you change it because you're the one who picked it. So everybody's different, and every situation you have here is different. All right? Does all that make sense? But I'm just saying, if I were you, and I would suggest, if you say, well, I've got my resume, I don't want you to look at it, I'd at least have somebody look at it who's not you. Because God knows you think you make no mistakes. I'm that way. And the worst thing is, maybe I told you about this, for years, that was my mom's job. She was an administrative assistant at an advertising agency. She could go like this in a resume. She can literally do it that fast. She speed reads. She can tell any word that's misspelled on there. That was her job. She would look at hundreds of resumes a day, and they would tell her if there's a mistake, we don't care if they have a 4.0 average, throw it out. That's what she did. So she looks at my resume. Oh, Jeffy, it's fantastic. I said, would you please act like you don't know me? Okay, well then you could actually change this around and you could change that. That helped. But don't go to somebody like your mom or somebody who's going to say, oh, Marky, it's fantastic. There's no problem at all with it. Yeah, I'd hire you tomorrow. Well, good. As long as that's where you want to work, then that's fine.
There are people up.
Yeah, there's career services here. Carrie Osmond, who's our internship coordinator, will look at anything. She will help you write a cover letter. She will help you with your resume. She will set up mock interviews for you if you want to do that.
She's very good.
All right. I also, I also have no problem at all. I'm not going to do it tomorrow because we just had the meeting. But in a week or in a couple weeks, even emailing Andy and asking him to come in here and talk. He is one of the people, I told him yesterday, I said, keep about May 10th, whatever that Thursday is around there, I said, keep that open if you can in the morning. He said, why? I said, because I'm going to have 10 students in a 152, 164 design and implementation projects class who want to show you what they can do. And he said, sounds good to me. I said, talk to John, too, who's the other owner of the company. John's more the sales guy, and he's the tech guy. But if you're going to interview, you probably have to talk to both of them. So I said, I'd like both of them to come. There's a few other people. All right, and as far as I know, and Mike interviewed for one a while back. I think that Mark Taylor, with increased marketing, I still think his business is going, but I think he's doing almost everything by himself now.
He is now, that's the rumor I've heard. Yeah, it was me and Pankhurst that interviewed with him.
But I'm going to try to do that, and I think I told you the other day, I'm going to also see if I can get somebody to come in from, somebody who literally from an app place, Madison or whatever.
And Data Dimensions is wanting interns, but they're
Yeah.
mostly for setting up.
No,
Or
that's
not
more than
the
that.
DVM.
There's more than that. That's a good point. Thank you. Data Dimensions, again, and Zach's already working there, right? They're looking for interns. The money isn't stellar. It's $10 an hour. But they're looking for probably a minimum of 10 hours a week. And they really need programmers. Kim Howery, if you remember Kim from last year, she is a C# programmer over there. They're on mandatory 50 to 60 hour a week overtime. So they're looking for people, what's that?
Where did you go?
Data dimensions. And Doug Tabbitt, who is now the Chief Information Security Officer at Data Dimensions, former instructor here, most of you would know him. Some of you took classes with him. All right, Doug said yesterday, he said Brian Maag, I think it's M-A-A-G, but I'm not sure. He's the guy who runs the programming area. He's looking for people. When I brought this up before, I printed all that out, I pasted it up over there. The only person who came to me was Zach. Not belittling any of the rest of you. But what I'm saying is if you're looking for something, you know, $100 a week is $100 a week if you work 10 hours. And again, I'll work around your schedule. The good news is, Doug mentioned yesterday, Mike was talking about people setting up machines. Well, once the people who are in the non-programming area, they'll have you work anytime. Nights, weekends, they don't care. Programmers, they want the programming manager there, to my knowledge. So that's like between 8 and 5. But again, we'll work something out. Your classes with me next semester are Tuesday, Thursday. So you could set something up there Monday, Wednesday, Friday even. I don't know. If you say, oh, I've already got something I'm doing, okay. But there are possibilities out there. All right. Now, what I want everybody to know too, as always, if you do go out on the P drive for the class, all right, the .m file and the .h file, they're both out there. You've already got the .h. Excuse me, the handout I gave you, I think it's pretty much the same thing we looked at the other day. All right, and I think that's what everybody keyed in.
We didn't do the implementation.
No, we didn't do the implementation file. But before you do the implementation file, okay, just one thing. For, you know, right now, you can go and key all the code in. That won't hurt anything. But when you go over to the storyboard here, and I bring that up, one thing is right now there's nothing hooked up to anything else. Would everybody agree with that? And you remember one way that we can hook things up? That if you go down here to that controller, and if you hold down on the control key, right there, and you go over here, it's going to bring up a box that's got all of the different controls you have. So you want the one that says tip 10%, or whatever the heck you called it, and you want to click that one, etc. All right, everybody understand what I'm talking about? So literally, I've already done those on mine. All right, so you're going to have to do that. All right, to establish the connection between them. So again, so if it was right here, I've already got them set up, but notice for bill total, everybody see where that is right here? So I would take my mouse, put it down here on the view controller, hold down on the control key, click down on the mouse, and drag up to right there. And then it says what field you want to associate it with. And I already have associated it with bill field. All right, but hopefully you can figure all these out by the names that we used. Okay? If you do that, and after you do that, if you enter the code into the implementation file, the bad news is I ran it and it doesn't work. So the good news is I'm going to have some time while you're doing that to try to debug it and see if I missed something. Because again, I'm porting this over from an older version of Xcode, which totally is different. They didn't have a storyboard file. They had a nib file. They had a bunch of nib procedures that we don't have now. So I'm moving stuff around and trying to get it to work. So if I find I made any mistakes, I'll tell you what they are. If I find I had any omissions in the code, I will tell you what they are. All right, but my goal is, hopefully by the time I leave here, is to get this up and running. And if there are any changes, what I'll do is I'll upgrade that folder that I put out there. I just as soon have you key the code in. Now you know, looking at this. Okay, I'm just going to cancel out of here. Okay, so you all see what the calculator looks like. I just wanted to show you something. And that is, tomorrow, what we're going to create in the Android class is going to look something like this. All right? But what it's going to have, I don't remember the exact format of it, but let's say it's got, again, bill total here. It may be someplace else. I don't care. All right? And all it's going to have here is it's going to say tip, and we're going to have a slider here Okay, so you can figure it out by yourself with the slider. All right, and it's going to be much simpler. But instead of, if you want to move the slider around, we're going to put a couple buttons in here. Plus and minus to move the slider forward and backward. Does that make sense? And then eventually you're going to have the answers down here. Okay, so it's going to look a little different, but the functionality will be very similar. Now, what's going to happen is, it's going to take at least tomorrow to get Hello World working, and then get into this. Okay? So let's assume that by the end of next week, that we've got the tip calculator working in both languages. Then what your assignment, so to speak, what it's going to be, is I want you to take this one and rewrite it in iOS, and I want you to take this one and rewrite it in Android. Does that make sense? You have basically all the code for both of them. But you can start fresh and create both of them. And that will give you a chance to do something on your own, to reuse some code, have to think a little bit about how you change things, and maybe do a little bit of investigatory work on your own. And I will give you at least a week in both classes. So at least 2 periods in both classes. And I'll do it too. And then when we're all done, I'll share mine with you. If you, well, mine's better. Well, good. I would hope yours would be better than mine, because I'm sure as heck not going to spend a lot of time on it. All right? So that's what we're going to be doing over the next 1 to 3 weeks in both classes. All right? And then I've got another one, we're going to do the same kind of thing. That we're going to create an app both in iOS and in Android. And they'll be similar to one another. If they're close enough, all right, then we won't even have an assignment on that other than you keying all that information in. Then we'll see where we are. What my hope is, like I think I've said this to you before, in this class, after Thanksgiving, do you guys realize because Thanksgiving's really late this year, there's only 2 weeks of school after Thanksgiving. That's it. When you come back from Thanksgiving, it's like December 1st. So you go the 1st through the 4th, if you're Monday through Thursday, then the 8th through the 11th, and that's it for the semester. Those 4 class periods, I'm planning on doing swing. All 4 of those class periods. Swift, thank you. I don't know why I keep saying swing. But Swift, thank you. I plan on doing Swift, all 4 of those class periods. Because the book that we're using next year is a Swift book. He'll be guest lecturer.
You'll be third lecture.
All right. So it's 10-2. I'm going to try to fix this so you know what you should start doing right now. I'm going to stop taping. All right. And if I find anything where I made a mistake or an omission or whatever, what I have to do is print out my old copy and take a look at it, because I've got a bunch of old marked up copies and one works really well. I want to see what I didn't do in this one that I did do in that one, or vice versa. All right. As soon as I figure out what the problem is, I'll let you know. Yes.
Quick question.
Yes.
You're not recording?
I am recording.
If we get a resume together for the data dimensions, do we send it to Doug, or?
I'll get you a name for that. You can send it to Doug, and he'll make sure that Brian gets it.